Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act says if a girl is a girl or a boy under 12, you need to get Qazi's permission to marry them. Okay. So that means technically Qazi can marry off a newborn baby. For the Muslim girls, statutory rape does not kick in. Sometimes you marry the perpetrator, you marry the rapist to the girl because you can marry them. None of the child protection system will work for them. Police to Child Protection Authority to Women's Affairs Ministry to we have door-knocked every Sri Lankan structures that are supposed to protect children. Muslim men under the Muslim Marriage and Divorce this Act is eligible to marry 4 women. I said we are going to get married under MMDA, so you have to give up your polygamous rights.
Hi, this is Aritha, and welcome to another episode of Stigma, the show that breaks the silence, brings real voices to your screen, and empowers the voices that need to be heard. On this episode of Stigma, we've got Shreen Saroor. Shreen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
And for decades, you and many other women have been campaigning to reform the Muslim marriage law. What is it about the law that you want to change?
So the Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act, which has been codified by Sri Lankan legislatures and passed in the parliament in 1951, directly violates fundamental rights of the Sri Lankan constitution. It has direct discrimination against women, and also it discriminates against children. So our struggle has been, as women's rights activists, we have been working for a very long time with regard to equality for women and to stop child abuse. So in that context, MMDA is one of the topics that we have been addressing for a very long time.
You say it discriminates against women. How does it discriminate against women?
Say MMDA has lots of provisions that has direct particular abuse of women. So one is that women don't sign in their marriage contract, so they can't give consent to their marriage.
Is it that women are not allowed to give consent, or is it an option they have to give consent?
There is no option as such. It is written in the legal term and also the marriage certificate. If you carefully look at it, it doesn't have space for women to sign.
So the bride does not have part for her to sign?
Yeah.
Okay. So who signs on her behalf?
Her father, the person who cannot get married to her father, her own brothers or father's brothers. So she has to be given in marriage.
Okay.
How old she is, whatever her capacity is.
So it's another man who should give that consent?
Yes, definitely. Okay. Women cannot.
So technically under the Muslim marriage law in Sri Lanka, the marriage contract is between 2 men?
Yes, you are right.
Interesting. And how was it like for you? You've been married. Did someone else sign on your behalf?
No. My marriage happened in 1999. At that point, also I knew about Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act, and it has a lot of other issues as well, that men have unilateral talaq, men have unconditional. Unilateral talaq means men can divorce women without valid reason, whereas if women won't divorce, we need to substantiate the reasons, and then evidence need to be brought in. The evidence need to be brought in by 2 men supporting us and all those things. And likewise, the polygamy is unconditional, which means the men can have multiple wives. Marriage registration is not compulsory, which means men can marry and get out of marriage responsibilities. And it also discriminates girls, because age of marriage is technically 0, because the Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act says if a girl is a girl or a boy under 12, you need to get Qazi's permission to marry them. Okay. So that means technically Qazi can marry off a newborn baby. And also one more thing, the structure that implements Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act doesn't have presence of women at all. The Qazi, the jurors, the marriage registrar, and the board of Qazis. No women's representation. So Qazi is the person who implements Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act, particularly in relation to divorce or family-related dispute.
So someone like
for
a judge.
Muslim. Yes.
Okay.
Like a level of magistrate judge, but
Okay.
it doesn't have a structure as such. It's an individual who is being appointed by Judicial Service Commission. And then marriage registrars, Muslim marriage registrars are also all male in Sri Lanka. To become a registrar, anybody can apply for other registration of marriage, women and men, but Muslim, it's only men.
Can you tell me, what did you do? How did you get around this law, which somehow doesn't seem to allow women to consent to their marriage?
So it is not easy for average women to do this. This is because I had a partner who wanted to marry me and who understood the discriminatory provisions of MMDA, and also somebody who respected my will. Plus, I also was at that point, I was also trying to work with reforming MMDA. So I thought, if in my personal life, if I give in to this, then there is no point me talking about reforms. So I was promised that they will allow me to sign, but when I ended up at the, what do you call, the
registrar,
the marriage, the seat where I was seated, and I saw somebody approaching my brother to sign for me, and then I immediately said, no, I need to sign, because at that point of time I was project leader for a international company, and I was signing multi-billion-dollar contracts and all. And I was wondering, here somebody, my younger brother, is about to sign for me, and I said, no, I need to sign. And my marriage needed to be kind of like postponed for a few hours, and there was a lot of tension. So few hours they need to delay it a bit, and then they said they will figure it out a way, and then they brought in a qazi, a different qazi, who apparently give people in marriage under different sect. So in Quran, Quran is interpreted by 4 different people, that main 4 different people. So Shafi, Hanafi, Maliki, Hanbali. So in Sri Lanka, All Ceylon Jamiatul Ulama insists that the Muslim community has to follow Safi sect. But then they said the Hanafi sect people will allow bride to sign. So that conversation happened while the wedding was almost getting postponed. And somebody came in, another qazi, and who said that I can sign, saying that wali is not present and I am temporarily being converted from Shafi to Hanafi, and I was allowed to sign, and I signed it. This is
so
because
what do you mean by converted? You had to convert your interpretation, convert your faith. You sort of...
No, it's just they said, now you say, now you are Hanafi, Hanafi, Hanafi 3 times. I said that, and then they allowed me to sign.
Okay, wow. Can we, you've got this here as evidence,
yes,
of you signing.
So this is where it is. See, wali only, so there is no space for bride.
Okay,
bridegroom only signs, and then in my space I sign, and then they have put here the bride signature, wali not present, and bride is Hanafi sect.
And this happened in 1999.
Yes.
So 25 years ago.
Yes.
Quarter of a century ago. Was this the first time that this had been done, or were Muslim women also signing on their behalf, or signing for themselves?
I don't know, because I was told only Hanafi sect women were allowed to sign. So I don't know previously any Hanafi sect women have married under this kind of a procedure. But as far as I know, I would have been first few who signed the marriage certificate.
Have others now adopted this precedence, you
yes,
said?
Yes,
Okay.
It is happening, and lots of young women are exploring the possibility of them signing. Yes.
Okay, so that's good news. That's great that you've been able to, push the interpretation of this law and challenge it, so that, we're talking something as basic as a woman signing her marriage certificate. Yeah. We shouldn't even be debating this issue, right?
But it's not easy, Aritha. It is the privilege that I had. I was a bit old when I married. I was 28 years old. I had my economic kind of ability to earn and like I was one of the
Financially independent.
breadwinner of the family, so therefore I could assert this. I had the power. And also, like my partner, my husband, he understood what I was asking. I said, we are going to get married under MMDA, so you have to give up your polygamous rights. So he...
What do you mean by the polygamous right?
So the Muslim man under the Muslim Marriage and Divorce, this act, is eligible to marry 4 women.
Okay, so a man can marry 4 women.
Yes.
Can women marry 4 men?
No, women cannot.
Okay.
And also, very interestingly, the current Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act does not say the marriage registration is compulsory. That means men not only can marry 4 times, they can marry many number of times because it's not registered anywhere. And they don't need to seek the permission of the first wife or the other wife, unless I go for a divorce and fasa divorce, which I lose everything, including child maintenance. It's very complicated because even the child maintenance is calculated based on the husband's eligibility to marry other women. So therefore, it's depending on the Qazi. The Qazi decides what the child maintenance is. So Qazi always thinks the husband is marrying other wives. So therefore, he has to provide for other wife and the children. So the first wife most often get deprived of getting maintenance, and also there is no alimony as such stipulated in this law. So women actually, if we go to court saying that Qazi saying that he is marrying another wife, so therefore I need divorce, Qazi wouldn't even consider, but if he considered, he will rip off or take away all our rights that we have with regard to getting access to any form of compensation. It's called mata. All those things will be cut down or reduced or or taken away basically. But what I ask my husband is that he has to waive it.
You asked your husband to waive his right to marry multiple wives.
Yes.
How did you do that?
So we went to a law firm and we did a prenuptial with a very prominent lawyer, and he gave me that as my engagement gift in an envelope, saying that he has waived off his eligibility to marry other women while I'm his legal wife.
So you got a prenuptial agreement signed. Again, another brilliant innovation of the law to sort of preempt the injustices of this act. And the position it places women is you use civil law, basically, and contract law to bind your husband contractually from exercising his right. But that was his engagement present.
I was forced to ask for that because I think that's the best thing that I could ask from my future husband. But very interestingly, when I talk about these things, some of the religious leaders said my marriage is not even valid. I have lived with my husband for 17 years in a kind of a sin relationship because I asked him to waive off his polygamous rights, and also I signed my marriage certificate.
What is the position of dowry or under the Muslim Marriage Act?
So it's interestingly,
Islam.
Interestingly, when you look at the marriage certificate, there are 2 columns. One says is mata. It's mahar. It says mahar. Mahar is what the husband gives the wife, and then it's also say amount of kaikuli. Kaikuli is dowry. So mahar is Islam, like according to Islamic Sharia law, the men have to give women, in order to prove that they are able to look after the wife and the future children, they have to provide a certain amount of money, property, and things like that, based on their family background and wealth that they have. Kaikuli is haram. In haram means in Islam, kaikuli is prohibited.
Okay.
So this comes from customary practices then when they
Does Islam specifically prohibit kaikuli?
Yeah.
But here it's there in the register, in the certificate saying amount of kaikuli.
Yes.
So why is it there if it's prohibited?
So this is because when they codified the law, they put in the customary practices as well. Kaikuli or dowry for men getting dowry from women is prohibited in Islam. It's a sin.
Okay. Has there been a challenge to sort of remove this section from the...
No, so far, so one of the things that we are asking is this dowry thing to be removed from here, because it's un-Islamic actually.
And of course, I think marrying of children is un-Islamic.
Yes, definitely.
And
for
in today's
marriage.
society, we have agreed as a society that that kind of maturity comes at 18.
Yes,
But,
18 or above. Certain countries, even Muslim countries, Saudi Arabia, age of marriage is 18.
okay. And that's the birthplace of Islam.
Yes.
That's where the Prophet comes from. But in Sri Lanka, as you said, the age of marriage for a Muslim child is technically 0 + 1 day, right?
Yeah.
And the age of sexual consent is 12.
Yeah.
Is there resistance to even change that?
There is a lot of resistance, but very interestingly, people say, there is not a lot of child marriage, and it's 16, 17 years and all those things. But the thing is, for us to have a legal provision saying that a Qazi can marry off a person under 12, and the rest of, above 12, the parents are guardians, itself indicates that in Sri Lanka that we are treating Muslim children differently than the other children. So that is itself discriminatory.
It denies the right to equality for Muslim women and Muslim children.
Definitely. Then the statutory rape, because the consent age, there is a grey area with regard to 18 and 16, the consent age. Even though that for the Muslim girls, statutory rape does not kick in. Sometimes you marry the perpetrator, you marry the rapist to the girl because you can marry them. So when a girl has had sex with older person, or older person has raped her, then what happens is they marry that person. So that means for rest of her life she's getting raped, she's getting punished. So this is like a punishment for children, and that's what we are saying, that we need to be very...
This is beyond a punishment for children.
Yeah.
This is pedophilia.
Yes.
This is child abuse.
Definitely. One of the things that people justify this child marriage or having this, so now what they are saying is, when we say minimum age of marriage should be 18, there is no exemption for it. The argument that the Muslim community, predominantly men, brought in is that saying, when a child is orphan, they need to marry that child very quickly. Or what if a child has sexual relationship? So that's why I said that they are punishing them, because most often these child marriage and teenage pregnancies that I have witnessed on the ground are like, this is connected to class system, because these are poorest of the poor who has been married off, children of poor parents. None of the child protection system will work for them. Police to Child Protection Authority to Women's Affairs Ministry to we have door-knocked every Sri Lankan structures that are supposed to protect children. No, because there is law, written law that says the age of marriage is 12 by the parents, below 12 by the Qazi. We have 64 Qazis all around Sri Lanka. They are paid through taxpayers' money. Mind you, it's not Muslim people's only tax-paying money or Muslim charitable thing. This is coming from taxpayers' money. So the government is responsible, because government is violating the Muslim children and Muslim women's rights. Therefore, it is government responsibility to reform this. Now, with regard to the Qazi structure, it doesn't allow any woman to get in anywhere closer to this implementation of MMDA.
But you try to challenge that.
Yes. So, in 2022, I applied for a Qazi when the Qazi, they called it, the Judicial Service Commission, advertised. So some of us applied, and then I went to court in 2022, November 9th. To Supreme Court, because I was not called for interview. I have all the qualification. The MMDA section 12 talks about Qazi being a Muslim male, good character with credible records, right? So the advertisement didn't very specifically say a few things. So it was very vague. So therefore I applied, and when I went to the Judicial Service Commission, they were all laughing, and why are you applying? I said, well, I'm applying. So then we have to make the Chief Justice and the Supreme Court judges as petitioners, because they are the ones who is running Judicial Service Commission. They are the topmost. At the Supreme Court, the judges, ask about my qualification and why I want to be a Qazi and all, but they didn't grant leave to proceed. Very interestingly, AG Department, as usual, came and justified the law by quoting Article 16 of the Constitution that talks about written and unwritten laws, customary practices being protected, even though it violates 1978 Constitution. I thought the judges would give me a hearing, but they didn't grant leave to proceed. And I also saw some of the senior President Council Muslim lawyers lining up, and my young lawyer who was appearing for me was like, I don't know what their intention was, but that day the court was full of senior Muslim lawyers. They stood there to prevent me, a woman becoming a Qazi, plus justifying polygamous marriage and justifying child marriage and teenage pregnancy. That is highly problematic.
Why do you think there is so much resistance to change of this law?
The problem is that they are not affected. They are in a privileged situation compared to, like in the whole of Sri Lanka, the Muslim men are in the highest privileged situation when it comes to patriarchy. So they don't want to give up. The other thing is also on Jamiatul Ulama. They have been sitting in all the reform processes, even the last few committees, the Salim Marsuf's committee in 2009 to 2018, and then 2020, Ali Sabri brought in a committee when he was a justice minister. They said they agreed to reform, but they get out and then they provoke all these Muslim MPs to get together. And so recently there was a good paper, a reform paper brought out by the Justice Ministry, and then 18 Muslim MPs got together and said, no way. And they brought in a very backward reform, not even forward reform, a very backward. So the three things they can't agree is very interesting, Aritha. The three things that the Muslim men can't agree is purely their privilege. One is the polygamous marriage, the conditions, and then registering the marriage. Compulsory registration of marriage, they are refusing. That means they want to have multiple marriage without any evidence, right? The other thing is agreeing to age of marriage as 18, right? The other one is women Qazis, because they know the women will not allow this. And also they have a problem because if the women don't have wali to a person to sign for them, it is the Qazi that gives wali permit. So they don't want women to do that, right? So they are very careful in this way. And also they know a woman will know when there is a polygamous marriage and all how the other woman is suffering. So they don't want the women to go sit there and make, because we know about children. We know about how children would suffer when there is no maintenance, when there is no father around and all those things. But they are very particular that we don't enter into these structures at all.
You are far stronger than those men. And I'm confident that one day we will change this law. But until then, you have my full support. You have the support of so many other people to reform this law and all other laws which are unjust towards women, which are abusive towards women, and which are also abusing our children. So thank you for your bravery.
Thank you.
Thank you for being such a champion. And thank you for being on this show.
Thanks a lot for having me, Aritha. Thanks.